Hey gang, Joyce with Skipping Calves Farms here. Thought I'd try and show you another little tip here. It's been real hot. We have a lot of clay in our soil. My property is also right next to a creek bed. If you look, you can see and hear the rooster. That's Big Boy. That's what I call my rooster. But if you look at the dark area right behind him, behind that fence where you can see those trees, that's the edge of my creek bed. Now it doesn't run 24/7, it doesn't run year-round anymore, but this whole bottom used to be part of a creek bed. So you've got, when you've got a creek that meanders like that, you'll have lenses of rock and gravel and sand and clay. So you never quite know what you're going to get. But mostly what we have is a lot of clay, a bit of silt. And we also have a bit of rock. And so what I wanted to do was just see if I can make this work with the selfie here. And show you a couple of things that I do to try and get my step-ins into the ground when they really don't want to. Now, first of all, you talk to Greg Judy. He's got a great video where he actually shows you what to do and how to do it. And this is not a perfect point. This point's a little too blunt. But I didn't have the equipment and I had a bunch to point. So this is what I did. But basically you take a grinding wheel and you put a pencil point on the tip. I would strongly recommend you do that before you ever use any of these. Now, what I do when I just pace off. Working with sheep, you probably want to keep things about 12 feet. That is a good spacing. I've only got 2 sheep. Sometimes if I don't have enough posts, I'll stretch it to 16. But I usually don't stretch it to 16 on an outside fence. I may on an inside fence. And so you, generally speaking, you want the hooks on the inside. So if the sheep are going to be on the left-hand side of this post, I'm going to want the step to the right and the hooks to the left. And what I try to do is I try to make sure my foot, the arch of my foot is on all the way down, and I push kind of steady. I also have my other hand on the top of the post, and it's leaning against my knee. And so I'll just push down with my weight. And kind of like you would with a shovel. You just kind of keep and use your body weight to get it to go down. Now that went down pretty good. We did have some rain yesterday, and so that's eased things up a little bit. Now I just put this step in, and I'm having a hard time pulling it out. So what I'll do is I'll come up here and just tap it a time or two with my finger or with my toe, and it just comes up finger easy. Now if you are putting a step in Big Boy's bragging. One of the girls must have laid an egg. Hey, Big Boy. Oh, I love being out and about during the day. You never know what's going to happen. It's so much less stressful from that standpoint. It's kind of cool. Anyway, to get back to the focus, so right now I went in about an inch or two, and now it's not going anywhere. And I'm not pushing hard, but let's see if we can hear over the rooster. You can hear that pop sound. Well, that tells me you probably are on a rock. And for me, I'll just move it an inch or two and then keep going down. Now, I'm still not all the way down, but I've gotten the metal spike all the way in, but the stepping's not all the way into the ground. Sometimes when you do hit something like a rock, sometimes what you can do is you can kind of work it back and forth, more not like a rock, but as much as like gravel. If you feel like you're in a little bit of gravel. I got a spider on my leg. Look at that. A spider on my leg. Sometimes I can work it back and forth like this, and you can kind of feel it grinding, and see, it went on down. And then always try and support it with my knee and get my the arch of my foot or the edge of my foot right next to it. And so that got that in there just a little bit more, and that should be good. Personally, I don't worry. As you can see, you look, I don't really worry about whether my step-ins are in the perfect alignment. I don't worry about how they look. If you're in the business of leasing land, you may want to pay a little more attention to aesthetics. But that's not something that at this point in time for my property and my goals, that's not something that really I pay much attention to. I'm not going to take the time to deal with it. But one of the nice things about doing the double step-ins, and you have a little bit of play like that at the top, that's where you can kind of lace them together and they'll support each other. And it works pretty good. So that's just a couple of tricks about pushing in the step-ins. Now I will also tell you this. You want to be aware of that prong on that step-in point. You do not want that to be bent. Once it gets bent, now this one may be just slightly, I mean hardly at all, and that's okay. It's not going to be factory good after you've used it for a couple of years necessarily. But if you get more than a 5 or 10 degree angle on that, you're going to want to straighten it out. Now, sometimes what you can do is you can just kind of straighten it out up against, by pushing against the tip against the ground. And you can just kind of push it and straighten it out that way and just rotate it and see if it looks like, yep, that's in good shape, and then move on. You don't want it bent, because the next time you come along and you may try and step on it, and you've just ruined a step-in post, and you don't want to do that. Also, another reason why the O'Briens are so much better is because they use a narrower point. I think it's 3/8 instead of 5/8. They can do that because of the quality of the materials that they use. The step-ins are more flexible. They don't get brittle. That's why they don't lose their hooks, like some of the less expensive ones. The first batch of step-ins I got were a non-name brand, and I'd say within the first year I lost about 10% of them. I've been using nothing, I've purchased nothing but O'Brien's for the last number of years. Personally, I like the blue and the yellow instead of the white ones. And that's just from the standpoint of, because the blue is darker, it's going to hold up better. If you don't believe me, get a white bucket and a blue bucket from Walmart and leave them out in the sun and see which one lasts longer. And the blue one will last probably almost twice as long in the sun, day in and day out. And it's just a function of the physics of the wavelength of light, and basically color is a reflection of the wavelengths that are absorbed. So without getting too geeky on you, So I like the blue and I like the yellow, but I also have some white. And so hopefully that gives you a couple of ideas without rambling any more than I already have. Those are just a couple of things to think about. I just paste mine off. I do like, personally, I do like to do the double step ins as I approach the fence. And one of the main reasons is because I want to keep my lines tight. I can shoelace them together. Then what I can also do is if it's too tight for the gate to hook to meet it, I can bend it over like this a little bit. My hand's at the top and I'm just pushing that over, and that'll give me a couple of an inch or two more to hook that gate hook onto the perimeter fence or whatever your power source is, and then that'll keep everything snuggy tight, and it'll keep itself tight. So with that, gang, I'm going to go ahead and get back to work. And I guess Big Boy's quit bragging. He's keeping an eye on things. He's going to really be keeping an eye on things tomorrow when his territory is going to be invaded by my 2 sheep. And you may ask, well, there's the rooster. Where are all the girls? Where are your girls, Big Boy? Where are the girls? I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but one of their favorite hangouts is underneath my boat. They've turned that into a great big dusting spot. And so that's where the girls are at this time. With that, gang, blessings for the day, and just keep tracing the dream.